declining to come back. The door to the dead, this pathway that has been opened, begins to close as you hear, both in the room and in your head, your fate is sealed.
Big Jesse here, and on this one we get to see an insufferable rules lawyer get dealt a satisfying serving of karma when this know-it-all learns that they don't know it all. I love it when some much needed karma gets dealt, baby. Let's get into it. So, I had a player who played in a couple of campaigns. He was known to be a rules lawyer and was a bit of a pain from the very beginning, though I was relatively new to running games, and he was reliable and local, which is a big plus when you live in a relatively rural area with a small pool of players. When we first got started, he would challenge me on rules mid-game. To keep things going, we defaulted to my initial ruling after some pushback. And from that point forward, every game would be followed by a 1 to 2 page single-spaced email detailing the areas where he disagreed with my decisions. A few times I did not retcon, but made clarified rulings for how things would proceed if it seemed like I made an incorrect call at the table. The vast majority of times it boiled down to, this is the way we're going to do it in my game. Sorry if you disagree, and feel free to run a game by your rules. I'll even join as a player. We started a long-running campaign in a crazy homebrewed world during the heyday of D&D 3.5. There were 6 players. I allowed some third-party content, so everyone had slightly overpowered characters. Rarely do a group of players complain if they have too many strong abilities after all, and this was mostly a fun game. It didn't stop Mr. Rules Lawyer's long post-game emails, which continued to get progressively longer every week. They finally topped out at 4+ pages after every game session. Oh, it's ridiculous. We had played the campaign from level 1 up to level 12 over more than a year when they decided to try and rob the very well protected vaults belonging to a lich. It was known this place was heavily trapped, and the only one real downfall the group struggled with the entire time was not having a rogue. They came up with inventive ways of finding, triggering, and dodging traps, which I was obviously fine with. After a multitude of traps in this particular session, they located yet another magical one. The rest of the party retreated 60 feet back around a corner with the intention of sending a summoned minion to trigger it. Mr. Rules Lawyer, however, mocked the rest of the group for their cowardice and explicitly stated, "These traps always have a radius of 30 feet. I'm going to stand 31 feet from the trap and watch it go off." This particular trap happened to be Circle of Death, which in 3.5 had a radius of 35 feet. I was doing my best to keep that devilish grin off my face, particularly since this was the 3rd time they had found one of these, and I knew he was making a potentially fatal mistake with his character. The trap triggered. The spell went off, reaching out to the full radius encompassing Mr. Rules Lawyer, who rolled a natural 1 on his saving throw, resulting in immediate character death. He first whines, "This isn't fair." Then he suggests, "You lied about the radius." After looking up the spell, he then said, "You changed the trap type after I declared where I was going to be standing." So I then showed the entire group my notes and the trap map for everything they had covered. I had written up my notes in Word and printed them out, so it wasn't like I could easily change them with my pencil at the table. The group decided to take a rest, and the druid prepared a reincarnate in order to bring Mr. Rules Lawyer's character back to life. I mean, he was their cleric. Rolling on the chart for the random reincarnation race, it was going to turn Mr. Rules Lawyer's character into a human. which really isn't that bad, even if it was going to change up his stats a bit. They were also approaching high enough levels that with some effort and a side quest, they could have gotten his original race back. Instead, however, Mr. Rules Lawyer said, "My character would be offended to come back as human and would never do so. Their soul would just rather stay dead." While other players at the table told him to stop being dramatic, I asked him to confirm, and he responded by saying, "My character would insist that they would rather stay dead than suffer such a terrible fate."
Declining to come back the door to the dead, this pathway that has been opened begins to close as you hear, both in the room and in your head, "Your fate is sealed." As the doorway rushes closed with the swirling wind encompassing the area and surrounding halls all around you, picking up the body while it dissipates, first into dust and then into small particles as they float away on the breeze within this structure.
The reincarnation fails because his character's soul declines to come back, resulting in the permanent death of his PC. Mr. Rules Lawyer then threw a fit at the table about being permanently dead. I didn't budge. He chose death of his character over inconvenience, and I wasn't gonna let that slide. I was happy to have him roll up a new PC, especially since the Lich had an entire area devoted to unique specimens coming up. It was the perfect place for the party to find a new PC and get back into the game. The game ended, and that night, I received a 6-page diatribe. Mr. Rules Lawyer's final ultimatum was that I should allow his character to come back as a ghost, which can possess the bodies of other characters, both PCs and NPCs, with no saving throw. While possessing a body, the ghost gets to keep all of the mental stats of a character's class abilities while gaining the body's physical stats and racial abilities. This possession had no time limit or no way to end it other than, "When I find a more suitable host, I'll just move on." This was clearly a broken homebrew and in no way a sane power to grant any PC or even, honestly, an NPC. No saving throw versus indefinite possession? No way, no how. I declined, and he insisted he was never coming back, which I then confirmed was correct and cemented this decision by permanently disinviting him from this and all future campaigns with me. No one from the group knew about these emails, so I printed out the entire exchange and shared it with the party just so that they would understand why Mr. Rules Lawyer would no longer be joining us. After all was said and done, I discovered just how much extra stress those emails had added to my life and felt rejuvenated and more excited to continue with the campaign. Looking back on it, it was a very valuable lesson in drawing boundaries with players, and now I cut off any of this behavior quite early. I don't mind if people disagree with my rulings, and honestly, I'm happy to discuss it with players just so that we're all in agreement on how to move forward. But someone questioning all of my decisions as a GM is clearly a bad fit, and I won't be inviting them to any of the games I run. I give this advice to other GMs and offer up this horror story as reasons why you should not be afraid to set solid boundaries, even if you're new to running games. So after reading this one, I wanted to scroll down to the comments, and when I did, the original poster / DM did leave a comment that gives us further insight on this situation. He did say that he was a new DM out of necessity. Apparently his old DM got burnt out, so he took the place. Being a new DM and having to navigate this kind of situation can be very difficult. So whatever you thought of this sweatiest piece of waste festering in the back of a Blow Brothers truck on a hot summer's day of a human being, it's much worse than you think. So those 1 to 5 pages this DM was getting after every session wasn't just unsolicited advice, which that in itself is a whole nother bag of worms. It was quote unquote, this is how you're wrong and you need a retcon because I said so. And that's apparently the gist of the 1 to 2 pages single spaced emails that this DM was receiving after every game. Me personally, I would have never let that go. And from what he stated in his comment after this, he no longer allows anything to come remotely close to that and will stop it in its tracks early. To all the players out there, please don't do this. If you feel the need to write 1 to 5 pages of complaints after every session, then it's just not for you, which is fine. Just bow out. And if you're a DM and this is happening, it's also okay to know that your game isn't going to be for everyone. That kind of interruption and negativity on your games is no fun. Anything that takes away from the fun at the table, gotta exit that shit. The end of it should have been that discussion that the DM had with this player at the beginning, saying that this is how it's going to go in my game. You don't need to do more than that. And kudos for this DM for handling the situation the way he did. And oh man, was it satisfying to see that karma smack that dude in the face. And I'm glad that at the end of the day, he was able to uninvite that player to any future games with him. I'm sure they had a lot more fun without that hand-sniffing turd bucket at the table. Oh man, rant, I guess rant is done then. I guess I won't continue to rant now. Oh shit. Now I'd like to hear from you guys. Let me know what you would have done in this situation, or if you have a story of a know-it-all that took away some of the fun at the table, how it was handled and what happened. I'd love to hear from you guys, and I look forward to seeing you in the comments. Now, if you think that I earned it, hit that like button. Also subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next one. So a little bit of housekeeping. This is a different format than I'm used to doing, and I do want to play around with different ways that I can make these videos. This way in particular, I'm able to produce content a little faster, and I would like to get it out to you guys. But at the end of the day, I would like to hear what you guys think. If you guys would like me to continue doing it this way, or maybe a combination of the both, I would really like to hear what you guys think. Or if there's a particular kind of content or a story that you would like me to cover, you can check out in the description. I have my Discord link so that you can hit me up. Let me know if you have a personal horror story or a story in general that you would like me to cover. Either way, thank you so much for watching. Later.